last couple of weeks, I've been working on a plugin for Minecraft that basically allows you to add instruments to the game. And so this is a video basically showing off what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, going over some of the intricacies, some of the ways that the plugin works, and letting you know how you can download this and set it up for yourself. So before we go into anything too technical, we'll just talk about the basics of the plugin. Basically, you are given the ability to craft not any, but a large amount of instruments, and by right-clicking those instruments, you can play notes that other people can hear. We can start with something simple, like our banjo right here. So as you can see, we can make a banjo drum and a banjo neck just by these two crafting recipes. You take them and place them in your crafting table to get yourself your instrument. You right-click on the instrument to play a note, and you left-click on the instrument to change the key that the instrument plays in. So in this case, right now we're playing in major G sharp. Now blues pentatonic major A sharp, major B. If we wanted to change not the key but the scale type, we can press shift left click, and now we'll swap blues pentatonic minor C, natural minor C, melodic minor C, and so on. And we've got this wonderful rainbow action bar going on down at the bottom. You can thank 1.16 for adding the ability to put any sort of color in. So that's just a small little thing that I wanted to throw out there because I put effort into it. But we're going to select ourselves just a classic major C. And now when we right click, we can play ourselves a note. Looking up, we'll play the highest note on that scale. And looking down, we'll play the lowest note on that scale. And as we go through, damn it. Damn, I almost did that perfectly. But as you can see, you can play all the notes by looking just up or down. And if you shift right click, you can change to advanced mode, which shrinks the space in which you play by about 50%. So instead of having to look all the way up, you can look from right around here down to right around here. So that just sort of increases the speed you should be able to get between all the notes at the sort of loss that it's going to be harder to select between individual notes. Hence it's advanced mode. But yeah, so that's the basics of the plugin. So now we're just going to go over some of the instruments that we have. Up here is just some basic crafting materials, not instruments. As you can see, we have alloy nuggets and alloy ingots. These can be crafted in between each other. This is just so I had sort of a crafting material that was metal but wasn't iron or gold. And over here is our chisel, which is just a tool for crafting, in this case, one particular instrument. But that's just crafted with a stick and an iron ingot. So going through some recipes, we've already got on the banjo. Over here we have our bass drum, which is just two of these bass drum heads on the bottom or top with this recipe, which gives us our drum. Over here we have our bass guitar, which follows that same pattern you saw before with the banjo. With the neck and the body. Well, maybe not just the body, but the neck, and then here's our body. We just take these two and combine them just like before to give ourselves the bass guitar. A lot of the textures, all of the textures were made by me, so a lot of them can be a bit rough, but let's see. Over here we have our flute. Just these iron ingots for the head and iron ingots and nuggets for the body. Pretty simple. We just combine them like this. Whoops, wrong direction. Right here we have our chime, which is just 3 chime tubes along with some strings to give ourselves some chime. Over here we have iron xylophone bars, which is regular xylophone bars. Iron and xylophone The iron is just made with, iron nuggets in this pattern, and the regular xylophone, hold on, the xylophone is just made in the same pattern but with the alloy. And then you make the mallets just with a nugget and the stick down at the bottom. You actually only get one mallet, even though it says mallets. You need 2 individual bit. I think I might need to rename that and retexture that because that's a bit confusing. But in both cases, you just take the mallets and the bars, and you just place them like so to get yourself the regular xylophone and iron xylophone. Alright, the next one is our guitar. Again, following that same sort of pattern that you saw with the bass guitar and the neck. We just throw these 2 together to give ourselves the guitar. Over here we have our Keytar, which, fun fact, used to be an entire grand piano before all of my friends and family told me that was dumb, holding a grand piano in your hands. And so it's now been relegated to Keytar status, which is just 3 bones down at the bottom for our piano keys, along with some redstone and iron to give ourselves our Keytar, but it is just a piano. Next we have our harp and our cowbell. Harp is made with gold ingots and some string in the middle. Cowbell's really simple, just alloy nuggets in a upside down U shape. And our cowbell. Up here we've got our snare and our hat. Our snare, just some iron ingots with some leather on top, and our hat, which is just 3 alloy ingots. And lastly, we have our regular bell and our turntable. And our regular bell is just made like so, with the same pattern as the cowbell, but with gold ingots. And our turntable is made with any 2 music discs, some iron, and some redstone. More of a synthesizer than a turntable. A Keytar would have worked great for that, but unfortunately it was taken. And our bell. As you've seen in a couple of these recipes, they do call for wood. Any recipe that calls for wood like this can use any sort of wood from just any wood. Any wood planks. So all of these will work. As long as it says planks in the name, you can use it for one of the crafting recipes. There is actually one more crafting recipe which was not in a box. And that one takes any stripped log. So the stems over here, the stripped warp stem and crimson stem actually will not work. But any of these stripped logs will work, as well as a chisel. And you just take the chisel and place the log, and it's a shapeless recipe anywhere you'd like to give you the didgeridoo. The chisel does not get consumed, so you can use that for as many didgeridoos as you want. And there you go. That is roughly every instrument in the game that I've added so far. They're just based off of the note blocks from the game, so it's all of those sounds. And if I remember correctly, I have about 5 different scales in right now. We've got blues, pentatonic major, pentatonic minor, natural, melodic, and harmonic minor, and major. But that being said, oh, that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that's 6. That being said, it's not technically that hard to add more scales, just a little bit time consuming. You know, I can show you real quick how to do that. So adding a scale is something that can technically be done by you. It's a little tedious, but it's not really impossible to do. Basically, all you have to do to add in a scale is put the name of the scale up here in like sort of shortened, usable, non-space format. Right, so major, blues major, nat minor, that sort of thing. And down here, you're going to put the name of the scale in sort of like English spacing formatted, how you actually want it to look in game when you switch to it. This is used for this down here, this identifier, and you just want to make sure that they're in the same place. So major, major, blues major, right? So if I were to put a new scale down here, and I wanted to call this one new scale, I could put whatever the scale's name was down here and call it something, well, let's say it was Lydian major natural, I don't know, something like that, right? And then down here, like this, and then for each note of that scale, or each key of that scale, you'd put that in. So starting up at the top, A sharp, B, C sharp. We just do sharps, we don't use flats. And it's just written in order that the note is supposed to go. So if our scale was like A, B sharp, I don't think that's a thing, etc., etc. And lastly, the scales, just so you know, we have roughly about 2 octaves to use, which goes from F sharp, I guess octave 5, although that was kind of arbitrarily picked, down to F7 sharp. And so that's sort of the range that you can work with. So if you wanted, you could have a scale that starts at A7, but note that you won't have an A8 to use. So probably starting at A6 would make more sense, so that you can use this whole range, right? D6, go down to D7, right? Like that. Just figure out where your whole octave would fit into that scale, and then that's the number that you're going to put right after it. So in this case, it would be A5, I think. No, it was A6, wasn't it? Yeah, A6. So we would do A6, and then in this case, you do B6 sharp with a sharp following it. So you do that for every single key, as you can see, A sharp, B, C sharp, etc., etc. Every single key possible. Once you've done that, you've added a scale. It's like I said, it's not complicated. I mostly just pulled all of the scales off the internet. I found a website that listed out all of these notes for me, and I basically just had to copy them in one at a time, transcribing it all. Like I said, not hard, just boring. That is basically how the plugin works, and the plugin in action. I don't have another person here, but I think I had mentioned before, if someone were to be playing a note, playing on an instrument over there, and I were to be over here, I'd be hearing the instrument coming from them. So it is being played in the world. It's not just being played for you, it's actually being played. Barring some latency and barring some issues with the server, TPS rate, you could technically play songs together. I would suggest using some sort of in-game metronome to make sure that everybody stays roughly in sync. But it is possible. Me and my wife have played sort of. We've jammed together. I'll just say we jammed together. Nothing in particular. And I've definitely been able to play some pretty simple songs on these instruments. It's nothing like crazy complicated. It was just like a fun little thing I wanted to work on while I sort of relearned how Denizen worked. I had used it a long time ago, a couple years ago, when I had made Aoria, and I just wanted to get back into it. Which is those videos that have been coming up on my channel recently have been just me sort of experimenting with Denizen and some side projects while I worked on this one. As far as this goes, like I've mentioned a couple times now, this is a plugin, not a mod. And so the difference between this, between a plugin and a mod, is that a plugin can be used on a vanilla server. Well, roughly speaking, vanilla. If I had someone who had just downloaded a fresh copy of Minecraft and they wanted to hop up onto this server, they'd be able to play these instruments and everything like that. They wouldn't have to download Forge or anything like that. Hence the term vanilla server. However, plugins can only be used on servers, so you can't really run this in a local world, for example. If you did want to run this by yourself, if this was something you wanted to use only for you, you can do that, but you have to have a server running. And so that's not particularly too hard. In my case, I have one running right here. It was really simple. I just literally downloaded Paper, which is a server, and I got it running. I downloaded the plugins and threw those into the folder, and it took only a few seconds to get up and running. So that is the difference between plugins and mods, just so you guys know. I will have all of the files uploaded on my GitHub or somewhere once I've cleaned them up a bit and gone through and done some like syntax checking and stuff like that, just to make sure everything is up to spec. And then I will post all of that in the description. So by the time this video comes out, that'll all be there for you. You will be able to download a file with all of this. Well, maybe not all of this. Probably not Morpheus. That's for something else, and probably not the Chisel interactions. That's for something else. But everything relevant you'll be able to download and literally just drop it into a scripts folder, which in my case is, here's my server. It goes plugins, denizens, scripts, and you would just drop it all in. You type x reload. Whoop, hold on. You just type x reload. The server would reload, and you'd have everything in the server. You will also need to have some resource packs. Just the textures for all the items. If you don't have these textures installed, the mod still... damn, I tried so hard not to say mod, and I did it anyways. And this is a second take, and I still blew it. Damn. It's a plugin, it's not a mod. There's a difference. But if you were to download the plugin and you didn't download the resource pack, all of the instruments and non-stackable items will be wooden swords. And all of the parts, such as the alloy ingots and nuggets and things like that, will all be sticks. So they still work, but if you want textures to be able to tell all of these apart, it is kind of important that you have the resource pack installed. Or if you want, you can create your own resource pack, and in that, or I guess basically you take my resource pack and modify it. And the easiest way to do that would just be to download that resource pack, go into the textures, and basically just change these textures right here. Don't change the names or anything like that. You should just be able to open it up in whatever texture editor you want to use, paint.net or anything like that. Obviously this is for the alloy ingot, so you would just change this to look like whatever ingot you wanted, right? Sorry, not ingot, nugget. Change this one to make it look like an ingot. This is the banjo head, this is the banjo neck, etc., etc. You just change these to look probably better than what I could do. And then for all the instruments, non-stackables, you can see them all here. And so you can just change those as well. Once that's done, reload the texture pack and you'll have your new textures. But yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments. If there's something else you want me to add or work on, I probably won't do it for this, just because I've been working on this for about 2 weeks now, off and on, and I'm thinking about working on something new. But if it is really, really cool or really easy for me to add, I might throw that in there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you later, YouTube.